We have assistants in the flight director office for certain key tasks, if you will. So again, assistant to our chief for space station, taking care of the space station, all those operations. And we have a assistant to the chief for exploration, which I just picked up that job at the end of last year when the other person took a different job. So I stepped in, started figuring out we're building an Orion spacecraft to start getting our astronauts from U.S. soil back into space, both to the space station and out to the moon. We're building a rocket to launch that, and then there's the changes at Kennedy Space Center to allow all that to actually happen. So that was the main focus when I stepped in the office. There had been a lot of work going on and off about if we go back to the moon, how do we do it? So that was kind of going on in the background. And then that all, about a month or two into that job, both of those activities all of a sudden skyrocketed. So we're working on the Gateway project, which is basically a small space station that will be in lunar orbit. So we'll build that. It's only a couple modules. It'll be permanently flying around the moon in a special lunar orbit. And then we'll fly Orion out to it, dock to it, and there will be a lunar lander waiting for them, which will go from that Gateway station down to the surface, do our spacewalks, come back up, and then what we want to do, we want this to be sustainable, not like Apollo where we didn't really have a follow-on plan. So we are working on how are we going to maximize our resources on the moon. So the whole future of we're going to get to the surface, put boot prints down again, but we want to stay. So we've got plans to have livable modules on the surface. We got plans on how to extract oxygen from the lunar soil, which you obviously need A, to live, and B, for rocket fuel, and other resources that you can pull out of what is there in the soil and provide some of the things you need to live and work in space and or to leave the moon and go to Mars. So that's kind of the master plan. The goal is Mars, but we've got to test out a lot of systems and technologies on the surface and around the moon before we can commit to the 2-year journey to and from Mars. It's one thing to commit to a week or a couple weeks to the moon and back, but once you do that final burn and head to Mars, you're committed to a long trip. So you got to make sure you have everything you need dependably to actually complete that journey.